A few decades or so ago, there was quite a lot of interest in research and trying to understand a nation's psyche or a nation's national identity, let's say. Now, a lot of that kind of research was abandoned over the years, mainly because it's difficult to try to pinpoint any dominating trait of a nation's people, right? Trying to figure out different characteristics that might explain the way a nation acts, the way a nation makes decisions, policies, et cetera, et cetera. In saying that, a quick review of the national anthems around the world does give you some insight, I guess, into some of the characteristics that might drive national culture. For example, there's plenty of national anthems that speak of freedom, freedom over oppression, freedom from some kind of colonial overlord, for example. Let's look at American national anthem, obviously, that speaks of the War of Independence. French national anthem speaks of being freed from, I guess, the tyranny of monarchy, let's say. But yeah, different national anthems around the world, especially those countries that have fought for their independence, have this as a guiding message in their national anthems. Then there are other related themes, or even opposite themes. Anthems that speak of honor and love of their monarch or their leader or their rulers, for example. Perhaps many mention God, and many mention this love, but that love that I was speaking of before. But often it's a love of country. There is one national anthem out there, though, that does speak of more of a love for one another, let's say. That's the New Zealand national anthem. That does have the words, "In the bonds of love we meet." That is, as we come together as a nation, we come together in love. Interesting, right? Now, for those of you who haven't picked up from my accent, perhaps, or from previous videos, where I'm from, I am from Australia, and looking at the Australian national anthem, there is one or two key themes in there that stand out, but probably the biggest one, especially if you have a look at the title of our national anthem, this one key theme would be fairness. The title of the national anthem is "Advance Australia Fair," and this value is represented quite often in Australian culture. In one way it's referenced often is by the Australian idiom of "have a fair go," give others a fair go. That means give others fair opportunity to succeed, to prosper. And this is often represented in Australian media, especially when media tries to portray what particular evil of society might be in any particular story they're looking at. They might lean into this idea of fairness or unfairness, let's say. So to some extent, Australians might be sensitive, let's say, to this type of overarching trait of fairness. Those familiar with Australians might be familiar with the concept of tall poppy syndrome. Poppies are flowers, yeah, and tall poppy syndrome relates to the practice of cutting down those that have grown above the rest. That is, pulling down or cutting down those that may have overachieved, let's say, and those that have risen above the rest of us. Australians don't like this. Well, it's not that we don't like the idea of achieving well. We do celebrate our great sport achievers, those that achieve well in business, those that achieve well on the global stage, in acting or music, for example. So we do celebrate these people, especially those that are making it on the global stage. But there is some aversion within Australian society to those that are perhaps boastful of their achievements, or perhaps those that have gotten above the rest of us, not necessarily through merit, let's say. All this is to say that there is, some downside to this psyche. In particular, there can be those that achieve well and perhaps aren't boastful of it, let's say, but still feel this pressure to hide their talents, or worse, feel a pressure to not overachieve. And that's not really a great outcome. But at the very least, this Australian style of egalitarianism does help with social cohesion. This idea that everybody should be treated well and fairly does help to make sure that for the majority of us, maybe excluding those that are doing really well, it does help to make everybody feel a part of the land down under.
Now, eagle-eyed viewers may have spotted some familiar landmarks in this video, so to play the Where is Dr. Dan game, head over to my Substack to be the first to log your location guess. See you next time.